A legacy forged in the spotlight can be both a blessing and a curse. For Max Baer Jr., it was the shadow that shaped his entire life. Born into fame but scarred by the price it demanded, Max carried not just the weight of his own ambitions, but also the deep echoes of his father's triumphs and tragedies. There's something uniquely compelling about those who rise from behind a famous name, trying to build something of their own while the world insists on defining them by someone else's past. In the glittering but ruthless world of Hollywood, Max Baer Jr.'s story became less about chasing stardom and more about survival, reinvention, and the painful cost of being underestimated. He was born on December 4, 1937, in Oakland, California, the son of Max Baer Sr., the famed heavyweight boxing champion whose power in the ring was matched only by the sorrow that followed him. That sorrow began in 1930, when his opponent Frankie Campbell died from injuries suffered in a match, an event that would haunt the Baer family for generations. Even as Max Sr. dominated headlines and claimed victory after victory, the ghost of that moment never truly left him, nor his son. For Max Jr., it was a legacy laced with guilt, admiration, and the constant pressure of a name too big to ignore. Growing up under the long shadow of a father who was both revered and feared, Max Baer Jr. faced an identity shaped by contradiction. His father's heritage, German Jewish and Irish Catholic, put the family at the intersection of cultural tensions in a divided America. At home, Max absorbed strength and charisma, watching his uncle Buddy Baer transition from the boxing ring to movie screens. That shift planted a seed in young Max. Perhaps there was a way to escape the burdens of the Baer name without abandoning it. From early on, he wasn't just strong. He was curious, driven, and determined to prove that he was more than just a boxer's son. As a teenager, Max seemed almost destined to break molds. At Christian Brothers High School in Sacramento, he lettered in 4 sports and found himself at the top of golf tournaments, winning the junior title at the Sacramento Open twice. His passion for golf carried into adulthood, where he continued to push boundaries by winning a prom tournament with Charlie Sifford in 1968. A notable achievement in a sport that wasn't exactly welcoming to outsiders. Long before he found fame on television, Max had already tasted victory, discipline, and rejection. At just 12 years old, he performed in England's Blackpool Pavilion, proving he was unafraid to try what most would never even imagine. Later, his time as a medical technician in the U.S. Air Force added quiet layers of resilience, service, and purpose. Qualities that Hollywood would later overlook far too quickly. But perhaps the most unexpected piece of his foundation was his education. Max Baer Jr. earned a business administration degree from Santa Clara University, with a minor in philosophy. That might sound like a footnote, but it wasn't. It became the lens through which he would later fight legal battles, craft business ventures, and outthink those who thought of him as just another washed-up actor. He was always watching, learning, and preparing, even if no one else noticed. Then came Jethro Bodine. In 1962, Max Baer Jr. stepped into the role that would change everything. And in many ways, cost him everything too. The Beverly Hillbillies wasn't just a sitcom. It was a cultural phenomenon. Week after week, more than 60 million Americans tuned in, making it the most watched show of its time. Max, towering at 6 feet 4 inches, brought to life the dim-witted but lovable Jethro with such charm and energy that he became a household name almost overnight. But there was a twist. In a comedic gamble, Max also played Jethro's twin sister, Jethrin, because the showrunners couldn't find a tall enough actress for the part. The risk paid off. He was so convincing that even his own brother didn't recognize him. Yet behind the laughter and ratings was a painful reality. Max was earning just $500 per episode, and residuals dried up quickly, leaving him with pennies while the studio raked in millions. The audience adored Jethro. The industry did not. When the show ended in 1971, Max Baer Jr. discovered just how unforgiving Hollywood could be. For 3 long years, he couldn't land a serious role. No matter how much talent he showed, no one could see past the country bumpkin from TV. Typecasting had locked him into a character that was no longer his own, and it nearly destroyed his career. But Max wasn't done. If Hollywood wouldn't give him a seat at the table, he'd build one himself. In 1974, with only $100,000 and the odds stacked against him, Baer directed, produced, and starred in Macon County Line. A gritty, emotional film that exploded at the box office and grossed over $35 million. It was a defiant message to the industry. He could succeed without their permission. He followed it with The Wild McCullochs and Ode to Billy Joe, the latter breaking ground by turning a hit song into a feature film, a strategy now used by studios around the world. Max Baer Jr. had reinvented himself as a filmmaker, and for a brief moment, the world saw him as more than Jethro. Still, the shadow always lingered. In 1991, he pulled off something bold and strategic. A licensing deal with CBS to use the Beverly Hillbillies brand and his beloved character Jethro in themed restaurants, hotels, and casinos. It wasn't just nostalgia. It was business. Max envisioned a chain of slot machines, barbecue sauces, eateries, and a full-scale hotel and casino, complete with Granny's shotgun shack and Jethro's rib joint. He poured nearly $2 million into the dream. He paid CBS royalties. He was all in. But in Hollywood, ambition often meets betrayal. In 2008, while Max was still developing his hospitality empire, a restaurant chain in Iowa called Jethro's Barbecue opened. The theme, the food names, even the branding, everything borrowed from the Beverly Hillbillies, yet Baer had never heard of it. And worse, when CBS found out, instead of defending his exclusive rights, they made a quiet deal with the restaurant owners, behind his back. They allowed the use of the Jethro name and aesthetic, cutting Max out entirely. For 5 years, he remained in the dark as his vision was stolen, his rights ignored, and his dream crumbled. In 2014, Baer took CBS to court. He sued for breach of contract, fraud, and more, determined to reclaim what he had built. His lawyer called CBS's secret deal one of the worst settlements in entertainment law. Baer argued that the network's betrayal ruined his chances at building a Beverly Hillbillies empire. Yet the courts were not on his side. By 2017, most of his claims were dismissed. The judge ruled that he couldn't prove financial loss, even after investing millions and spending decades trying to build something real. Just like that, his dream was gone. In his personal life, Max Baer Jr. was no stranger to heartbreak. In 1965, he married actress Joanne Kathleen Hill after seeing her on a billboard. But their marriage, strained by diverging ambitions, ended 5 years later. They had no children. Years later, another tragedy struck when his girlfriend, Cher Rhodes, a penthouse model, died by suicide in their Lake Tahoe home. Her sudden loss shook him deeply. From that point on, Max grew distant, guarded, and increasingly reclusive. He became known for wearing eccentric clothes and lived in a home filled with memorabilia, carrying with him both the weight of fame and the scars of betrayal. Even as he fought to hold on to the Jethro legacy, Max worked to preserve his father's name. When the 2005 film Cinderella Man painted Max Baer Sr. as a villain, Baer Jr. was outraged. He publicly defended his father, reminding the world that the man behind the gloves had been haunted by the tragedy of Frankie Campbell, not driven by cruelty. It was another battle, another attempt to reclaim truth from fiction. Despite everything, failed legal cases, stolen dreams, lost love, Max Baer Jr. never gave up. As of 2025, his estimated net worth stood at $50 million. Not from acting gigs or sitcom reruns, but from decades of smart moves behind the camera and stubborn, brilliant business decisions. He had produced hits, fought for his rights, and built a name in a world that tried to erase him. Still, the weight of Jethro never really left him. He once said that by the time he turned 50, he was about as much in demand as cancer. It was a painful admission from a man who had once captured the hearts of millions. Today, Max Baer Jr. is the last living star of the Beverly Hillbillies. Donna Douglas, Buddy Ebsen, they're all gone now. And he remains, carrying the laughter, the burden, and the memories. He often reflects on how fans still remember the show, how their faces light up at the mention of Jethro, and how he both loves and resents that the world never saw the full man behind the character. Because his story was never just about one role. It was about enduring when no one believed he could. About choosing to fight back, to create, and to protect a legacy that mattered. For all the drama, heartbreak, and lawsuits, Max Baer Jr.'s life is a testament to something rare in Hollywood: grit. In a world quick to discard, he stood his ground. He may not have gotten everything he deserved, but he fought for it, every step of the way. If you found Max Baer Jr.'s story as powerful and moving as we did, take a second to give this video a like and hit subscribe. There's so much more to the stars we think we know, and we're here to tell those stories.